Hey there, it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. What were you saying about me doing a weather report last week?
You were saying, man, you got out because we had the bad weather.
Yeah.
You were saying that, man, you hate doing weather stories. And I was like, man, how'd you get out of the, 2 days in a row you haven't done a weather story? And then I was watching, I think it was a Thursday or whatever.
Wednesday,
yes. There you were in Conroe.
Right.
Some, bad weather story. So yeah, I got a laugh out of that.
It's my least favorite thing to report on is the weather. Hey, thank you all for joining us. Joining us today is Constable Alan Rosen. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Constable Alan Rosen, and I'm the Precinct One Constable, and I'm really happy to be here at Breaking Bond today. And
how long have you been a constable?
I've been constable 12 years.
Really?
Yep. I've won 3 elections, and I'm up in March.
Back in the day, constables were just kind of known for you served papers, right? Like you served warrants, and it is so much more now.
It really is. Actually, constables were the first in law enforcement.
Really?
Out of everybody.
It's kind of a Texas thing, isn't it?
It's a Texas thing. There is some around the country. They're just not as big. Texas, you have big constables offices. It's because we're so responsive. We're responsive to the community's needs. There's nobody that touches the community more than constables' offices. That's just the way it's been. I mean, we just get ourselves embedded in the community, and people call us for everything.
Why did you want to be a constable?
Good question.
I wanted to be in law enforcement. I've always been in law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement since 1991, and I just love law enforcement. It's just something that's in your blood. I love helping people. I love solving problems, and it's just something that you can really get a good sense of satisfaction out of your job.
When you say Precinct One, for people that don't know what Precinct One is, what does that involve, Precinct One?
Precinct One, we're the second largest constable's office in the United States, and many people don't know that we serve all of the mental health warrants for the whole entire county, not just Precinct One, all of the juvenile warrants for the whole entire county, all the animal cruelty cases for the county, all the environmental cases for the county. This is all countywide. We have a patrol division, civil division, criminal warrants. We have a game room task force. We're part of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. We're responsible for everybody who visits and works at the downtown courthouse complex to ensure their safety and well-being. And then the greatest thing we do is community outreach.
Yeah.
That's what we do in spades. If there's a warming center that needs to be opened up for our homeless population, Precinct One has always been the first out there to do it. We were the first to give away masks and gloves and food during the pandemic. We did an eviction defense drive-through during the pandemic. It's just, we really like to engage and be more than just a law enforcement.
I remember when I first started at Fox 26, I worked on this show, City Under Siege. And I remember spending, maybe it was 2 days with the Precinct One Constable's office when they were serving mental health warrants.
Is that Jack I ever see?
Yes.
I'll take constables for $200.
And they were so compassionate, and that's a difficult thing to do.
Extreme.
When you're knocking on somebody's door and you're dealing with a family that has somebody that has they're going through a big mental health crisis.
Absolutely. And you don't treat people with mental illness like criminals.
Right, yeah.
So it takes a special person, a compassionate person.
It does. When I came away from shooting that, I just thought, I had so much respect for these, and they treated these people so politely, and it was really something to watch. I'll never forget that.
It's probably one of the most important divisions to me. I've always had an affinity for it because, again, you're meeting people at a point in their life where they're going through a medical problem, and you're having to get law enforcement, which traditionally is a criminal thing,
right,
to get involved. And so I've got one of the largest mental health units in the United States.
It's going to be hard too when you're evicting people, because that's something no one wants to see somebody get evicted, but you have to do it.
It's part of my the oath that I took, and it is the saddest part of my job is kicking somebody out of their house. We do provide resources to them. We don't just kick them out and put them in the street.
Right.
We try to provide a bunch of resources where they can go and get help. But that is the worst part of my job, is actually having to kick people out of a house or move them out. And it's tough. And that's why I made sure that everyone that does that function in the office is also armed with a lot of resources, organizations that can help place people in shelters or
Yeah.
place people with relatives. Most people do go to a relative.
Yeah.
Just for the record, they're not homeless.
It's one of those things too, you have to make sure that, because it's a civil proceeding where you got to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and there's no confusion that, you're not evicting somebody when they shouldn't be evicted.
Absolutely. No, we check everything. Everything's checked, triply checked, to make sure that we're not doing that. I don't think I've ever had a situation where we moved somebody out that we made an error in moving them out.
Right.
Because it's
Yeah,
so.
I would say, Constable, one thing that, I've been around, Randy's been along, but I think the public probably knows you for several things. The gaming establishments, right?
Yeah, you've done a lot of those.
Animal cruelty.
Yeah.
In addition to what we're going to be talking about tonight with different types of stings and things of that nature.
Now, with the animal cruelty, have you always done that, or is it just becoming more high profile for you?
It's becoming more high profile because we're seeing more and more animal cruelty cases. And the belief is that if you do really bad things to animals, at some point you're going to transition to humans.
I believe that, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. If you're willing to mistreat, throw an animal across a room or beat an animal to death, and you've got some rage.
The tendency found in a majority of serial killers.
Were they harmed animals?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how they get their kind of start, how they learn their craft, sort of.
And we're overworked. In fact, I'm adding another resource to that because we're so overwhelmed with those types of cases. And so people love their animals. I love mine.
Yeah,
and
me
I
too.
can't fathom a helpless, defenseless animal.
So you do animal cruelty cases all over Harris County, not just Precinct One.
Yeah, not just in Precinct One, all over Harris County. In fact, we go into other counties to help them as well. We'll go into Montgomery and Brazoria, Fort Bend. We'll go to all of our Waller adjacent counties if they need help. Our partner in that is the Houston SPCA, and it's overwhelming how many cases that we have. A lot of them we actually seize animals through the court system once we establish that the animal was mistreated.
Yeah.
We go through the court system and establish that the animal needs to be seized, and then we take the animal, place it in the Houston SPCA. They then adopt the animal out and get medical care first, but then adopt the animal.
Do you find there's still kind of confusion? Luckily, the laws have gotten tougher here in Texas when it comes to animals. But still, I mean, if somebody wants to tether their dog in the back, they can do that. But they have to have shelter, they have to have water, they have to have food.
That's right. That's right. And there was a lot of push for that.
Yeah.
There's people that's all they do is go around neighborhoods and looking for animals that are chained up inappropriately or chained up without shelter, water, and food. And there's people that do that. And I 100% agree with it. It's okay to have an animal outside as long as you provide shelter, water, and food and medical care. Then you're going to be okay. We'll knock on your door first and say, look, that's not going to work.
Right.
And we try to work with animal owners, but you're going to get one warning. And
I know too, you are very aware of the whole over animal population that we deal with. You work with Houston Pet Set with Tina and Tama. I mean, it is a problem for the greater Houston area, isn't it?
It is. And, spay and neutering is important. And, there are organizations out there, if you can't afford to do spay and neutering, they have free clinics to where you can go and get your animal spayed and neutered by licensed veterinarians and everything. So there's really no reason not to do it.
To me, it's always seemed like there's still kind of this, some people just have this idea of, well, it's a dog, it's a cat. No, we're not going to get it operated on. We're going to let it run around. They just, right? It's like, that's how they look at it.
And then they have puppies or kittens, and then they don't know what to do, and they start getting into a panic situation, and then they aren't able to, have food, water, and shelter enough. And then we step in, and try to tell them, hey, you got to do this. We try to work with people,
right?
But if you're mistreating an animal and you're being cruel to an animal, we're not going out and warning.
You're not going to tolerate that.
We're going to seize the animal. We're going to file charges against you. and that's the way it is. I'm going to protect animals. I can tell you that right now. Viewers, we are going to protect animals.
And there's a number that people can call.
Yeah, 713-755-5200.
Yeah. And it has a paw thing, or is there, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a different,
Okay.
different organization, but you call us, we're going to direct you to our animal cruelty division, and they will take care of it. If you want to do it online, to be anonymous, you have a neighbor that's maybe mistreating an animal, you don't want the neighbor to know you reported it, you can always go to the PCT, the #1constable.net, and you can anonymously report somebody that's mistreating an animal, or report anything else you want.
We like anonymous tips.
Yeah, you do.
That's kind of your thing, isn't it?
It is.
Anonymous tipsters are the best.
Right.
They are.
Let's talk about, you had a pretty big case that you broke, or that you talked about last Friday. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this was two individuals. We started this investigation about 8 months ago, and we were contacted by the Texas Funeral Service Commission about a potential group of people that were defrauding the public. They would take money from them. They would not have funerals. They would take money from them and say, we're going to embalm your loved one. They wouldn't embalm the body. They would store the body in garages with no air conditioning. They would say that they're going to do all kinds of services to which they didn't do.
Wow.
And
How
then
do the families get in touch with
it's
these?
very easy. He got in touch with them. So what he would do is he'd look online and see families who just lost a loved one.
Yeah.
He would contact the families, mostly through Facebook and other means, and say, hey, I was a friend of the deceased, and I want to take care of y'all. He was a dear friend of mine, and I want to help y'all during your time of need. And so I'm gonna do that. And so there was a feeling of mutual friendship,
Connection.
Right.
And then he would get there. Then he would ask, do you have a insurance policy, like a funeral insurance policy? And if you felt comfortable enough with him, you'd give it to him. Then he would change the name on it, put his name. He committed fraud on numerous documents. He claimed he was a funeral director and embalmer, of which he was neither.
You have to have a license to do that.
Absolutely you do. Absolutely you do. And so he was doing this. He would call you up and befriend you, and he is a very smooth talker. So I can see how some of these victims were doing.
I saw him in court,
Yeah.
pretending this was like his stage appearance.
Yeah, I
out
believe
there. Yeah. I mean, the court was his theater when he walked
Well,
in.
I mean, people that do that sort of thing, that's why they're successful at it, because they've got one of these kind of personalities that, hey, I'm your friend, or there's something about me that's going to make you trust me.
He would, he would do everything. I mean, he would set up and tell you that he's putting together a whole entire funeral with doves and the horse-drawn carriage, and the family would show up to the funeral and nothing.
Oh my gosh.
They wouldn't know where their loved one's body was.
What?
They wouldn't know where. In fact, many people that were at our news press conference said, I don't know if I've got my loved one's ashes. I don't know how. And we looked into if there was a way to do some DNA testing post being cremated, and it's not real hopeful. So it's sad, because these people are at their worst times ever. And you got a guy that's over there taking advantage of
Do you
them.
think there's more victims out there? I would
We
assume.
have-
I would assume, but I don't. Yeah.
We have heard from so many people. Our phones have blown up after this case. There are so many additional cases that we're going to have to look into. A lot. Just the day of the press conference, we got about 50 phone calls.
And you've gotten some national coverage, attention on it.
We did, because people are so shocked by it.
Yeah.
They're so shocked that anybody would take advantage of people at a time when they're at their lowest already.
Right.
I mean, there's just a special place for somebody like that.
And you're going to be vulnerable because of you're going through grief and you've lost a loved one. And yeah, what a terrible time to become a convict.
Horrible. And I mean, these people were crushed. And I totally get it. So when this case was originally brought to our attention, I said, yes, investigate it. We did it in conjunction with the Texas Rangers. We appreciate everybody's help. But
How long did it take you?
8 months.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. We've done several high profile investigations that have resulted in some very large cases. We really have great investigators. We have people that really take their time and dot all the i's and cross all the t's. And we're able to do this case and hopefully bring some conclusion to these victims' lives. I mean, we could have had 50 people at our press conference.
Yeah.
You go back to the old cliche, this is like Pandora's box.
Yes.
Right.
You know, you got it opened.
Yep.
And it's going to continue. What was what's his name, Major, when he was arrested? I mean,
He kept telling us, "Oh, I'm coming in. I'm going to turn myself in," and we'd say, "Please, turn yourself in by this date." And he hid from us. We had to do so much to capture him, and we're just so thankful that we got him. And I'm hopeful that if we get more and more cases, they'll start.
But there's more than just him.
Yes, there is. There's
Right.
Miss Bussard as well. Yeah, she's a problem character as well.
One of the things that we're going to look at in tonight's Breaking Bond segment, we sort of took a deep dive into these two defendants that you arrested. Of course, you have nothing to say when it comes to bond. You don't get to have any control over that. Well, we
Were you
have.
surprised, though, considering their lengthy criminal history, they're in and out of the system. Were you surprised how low the bond was? And in one case, there was nothing.
Yeah, I mean, because what somebody like this is going to do based on their past history is they're going to go out and apply their trades.
Right, and they have a past history.
That's correct.
I totally get it. If you've had a couple of run-ins, maybe a conviction or two, and okay, 10, 20, 30, but come on, his bond amount is ridiculous. She got a PR bond even though she's on parole until the year 2040. We're gonna get reaction from Constable Rosen. You'll see that in tonight's Breaking Bond report. That's tonight at 9, Fox 26 News at 9. Thank you so much for joining us, and remember, be kind to yourself and everyone else. Thank you.